right. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's event. Before we get started, I would like to review the features of this webinar. If you are having audio difficulties, please check the up arrow next to the audio settings in the lower left-hand corner of your screen and choose a new speaker option. If you're still having audio difficulties, you can consider dialing in. There will be instructions placed in the chat. Please note that all participants have been muted and their cameras have been disabled. Only our speakers will be on camera during today's session. If you have a question for our presenters during today's webinar, please submit it in the Q&A feature, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We will ask the presenters your questions at the end of the webinar. If we're unable to get to your questions during the session today, we will provide additional information and the slide deck from today's session in a follow-up email after the event. This will show up in your email probably by tomorrow, end of day. Additionally, at the end of today's webinar, oh, goodness. Okay. You'll have the opportunity to complete a survey. We would greatly appreciate if you could take a few minutes to complete the survey. Your feedback is really, really valuable to us. So please note that this webinar is being recorded for educational purposes. And then this week, we are celebrating National Small Business Week, which is a part of the Small Business Administration celebration that has been celebrated for over 60 years. This year's National Small Business Week takes place from April 28th through May 4th, which acknowledges the critical contributions of America's entrepreneurs and small business owners. Thank you for joining us for the Exploring Funding Opportunities for the Ag and Small Businesses with USDA REAP grant as we celebrate Entrepreneurship Week. Thanks again for joining us today. See here, switch slides. Today, we'll be hearing from the Pennsylvania Technical Assistance Program's Technical Advisor, Amy Jordan. We'll also hear from Heather Schneider with York Wall Covering Inc. and Martin Brill, the Ag COE Coordinator with the Penn State Small Business Development Center. Amy is up first. Amy, feel free to go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me see if I can get control here. You know, I'll have to have you forward for me there, Brandy. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Jordan, and I'm a technical advisor for the Pennsylvania Technical Assistance Program at Penn State. Next. PennTAP is a statewide grant-funded organization housed within the Office of Entrepreneurship and Commercialization. Our mission is to provide Pennsylvania companies with technical assistance and access to Penn State's talented faculty and students in order to solve business challenges. Simultaneously, PennTAP provides Penn State faculty and students with opportunities to broaden their impact, expertise, and experiences through engaged applications. PennTAP has been around for almost 60 years as one of the first technical assistance programs in the country. Next. We take a regional approach to achieving our mission with technical advisors strategically positioned across the Commonwealth. We are already working in York County in Pennsylvania. Next. Our team has a combined 200 years of experience in areas custom fit to serve PA manufacturers. Certified energy managers, certified Six Sigma green belts, chemical and electrical engineers, environmental scientists, certified water efficiency professional, lead green associate, and experience in manufacturing and operations management. We're proud to share the impact of our services. With 95 cases across 38 Pennsylvania counties, our clients reported $8.4 million in economic benefits and 26 jobs created or saved. 47% of the cases were in environmental justice areas. We engaged over 220 students and educated over 1,000 individuals. So how did we achieve these results? As a grant-funded organization, we have appreciated the support from these organizations over the past 5 years. This webinar is supported by USDA funding. These funds allow us to provide services in both innovation and energy and environment. Through engagement with faculty, students, and facilities, we can help Pennsylvania businesses develop new products and save time with process improvements. Technology assessments and entrepreneurial assistance is the foundation of our innovation services. Our energy and environment work focuses on pollution prevention and energy efficiency projects. We also have the opportunity to take projects to the next level with economy, energy, and environment assessments and energy management systems. The most common energy service is the P2E2, which refers to our pollution prevention and energy efficiency assessments. In this work, PennTAP will complete an on-site assessment. We evaluate the facility's utility consumption, which includes learning about the facility's processes, equipment, and operations. We analyze the data and provide a report that can assist with planning future building and equipment upgrades. As a grant-funded organization, PennTAP is continuously looking for funds that will allow us to offer the P2E2 assessment at no cost. With that goal in mind, we applied for the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Energy for America Technical Assistance Grant. Next. This is the USDA REAP TAG grant. What do the REAP TAG funds allow us to do? We're able to assist agricultural producers or rural small businesses to apply for assistance under REAP for energy efficiency improvements. We can provide information on how to improve the energy efficiency of the operation and to use renewable energy technologies and resources in their operations. We can conduct energy assessments and audits, prepare a technical report, assist with filing for system award management and unique entity identifier registrations, assist with completion of environmental reports and/or documentation required for submitting an application, and then assist with completing a REAP grant application. Next. So what is REAP? It is the Rural Energy for America program offered by the USDA. REAP grants can cover up to 50% of eligible project costs. Renewable energy systems have a minimum total project cost of $10,000 and a max grant request of $1 million. Energy efficiency improvements have a minimum total project cost of $6,000 and a max grant request of $500,000. Maximum assistance to an applicant in a fiscal year is $1.5 million. To be eligible for up to 50% federal grant share, an application must meet one of these 4 criteria. The project must be a renewable energy system or RES retrofit that produces 0 greenhouse gas emissions at the project level, must be located in an energy community as defined in an IRA statute, be an energy efficiency improvement project, or be a project proposed by a tribal corporation or other tribal business entity. Next. Who is eligible to apply for REAP? First, rural small businesses. A small business is an entity that meets the SBA size standards and meets one of the following entity types: a private for-profit entity, a cooperative, an electric utility, or a tribal corporation or other tribal business entity. All other nonprofit entities are not eligible for REAP. An eligible small business must be located in a rural area or non-metro communities of 50,000 population or less. The agency maintains an eligibility website where you can search your proposed project location to determine rural area eligibility. The next category of eligible applicants is agricultural producers. An agricultural producer is an individual, meaning a sole proprietorship, or an entity that receives 50% or more of their income from agricultural operations. An agricultural producer is defined as a person, including nonprofits, directly engaged in the production of agricultural products through labor management and operations, including the cultivating, growing, and harvesting of plants and crops, breeding, raising, feeding, or housing of livestock, forestry products, hydroponics, nursery stock, or aquaculture, whereby 50% or greater of their gross income is derived from these operations. Next. What types of projects can we assist with? Assistance is available to make energy efficiency improvements to your operations. They include high efficiency heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, insulation, lighting, cooling or refrigeration units, doors and windows, compressed air, switching from a diesel to electric motor, replacement of energy inefficient equipment, and incorporation of smart controls. The technology must be commercially available, therefore, research and development projects do not qualify. Examples of businesses utilizing the program are greenhouses, upgrading to energy efficient roofs, radiant heat, fans, vents, and computerized controls. Poultry farm install radiant heat and upgrades to efficient fans and vents, computer controls, and LED lighting. Irrigation improvements include electric, solar, or gravity pumps for sprinkler pivots and switching from a diesel to electric irrigation motor. Food processors replace low efficiency motors and incorporate smart controls. Manufacturers replace aged air compressors and incorporate LED with building controls. The use of funds. Eligible project costs include equipment, so that's purchasing and installation, new or refurbished equipment, post-application construction and facility improvements, retrofitting, professional service fees, permits and license fees, working capital, land acquisition. That's done with guaranteed loan only and has some restrictions. Ineligible project costs include residential energy projects, equipment such as farm tillage equipment, used equipment, and vehicles, pre-application construction and facility improvement, and I'll define the post and pre-application as we move forward. Application preparation or grant writer fees are not able to be covered, line of credit, lease payments, or payments to the applicant or business owner, beneficiary, or relative. Next. USDA REAP is a very competitive reimbursement grant. The agency announced in March of 2023 the availability of over $1 billion in Inflation Reduction Act funds across 6 quarterly competitions to be obligated by September 30th of this year. Applications not funded roll over into the next quarter. For example, applications submitted in September 2023 that were not funded move on to the next round of competition to be considered. If not funded at the end of the fiscal year, the application must be withdrawn. So, all applications turned in by June 30th, 2024 are that's the final deadline to apply for fiscal year 23-24. Assuming that this program continues through the next fiscal year, as it has been in history, a new application can be submitted. Please keep in mind that these are application close dates. Applications for REAP may be submitted at any time throughout the year. Next. To complete an application for this program, you must be pre-registered with the System for Award Management, SAM, and also have a unique entity ID. Neither of these applications cost money, but they take some time It's like we're missing a slide here. Can you back up one? See where we're at?
We must be missing a slide.
Okay. Let's see. So if you're already registered with either the SAM or the unique entity ID, you do not need to do it again. And again, they don't cost any money to apply. I have a number of different forms that I provide when we're going through the process of completing an application. And the forms are available in multiple formats for downloading and completing electronically based on your needs. The REAP selection process is designed to ensure that funds are allocated to the most effective and impactful projects in rural communities. Applications for both grants and loan guarantees are evaluated using a competitive scoring system that considers a range of criteria, including energy generation or savings, length of payback period, location in a disadvantaged or distressed community, environmental benefits, and more. Additionally, the selection process ensures that funds are distributed fairly and equitably among eligible applicants, promoting the development of a diverse range of renewable energy and energy efficiency projects across the country. Applications are assessed based on several criteria, each carrying a specific point value. There are 100 available points, and the main criteria for scoring include environmental benefits, such as the proposed project does not produce greenhouse gases at the project level, it does not convert farmland, does not contribute to deforestation, and/or improves water conservation. Quantity of energy generated, replaced, or saved per grant dollar request. Points are awarded based on the amount of energy the project is expected to generate or save, with higher points for more significant energy savings or generations. Commitment of matching funds. Points are awarded if the applicant has confirmed written commitments of more than 50% of the needed funds. Previous grantees and borrowers. 15 points are awarded if the applicant has never received from the USDA. And these points will be lower based on how long it's been since you have received, if you've previously received USDA funding. 15 points will be awarded if the project site is located in a disadvantaged community or distressed community. If the simple payback of the proposed project is less than 4 years, 15 points are awarded. Higher payback periods earn reduced points. The state director or administrator, at their discretion, may award up to a maximum of 10 priority points for projects which meet certain criteria, such as the applicant is a member of an underserved or unserved population. The proposed project is in a federally declared major disaster area, etc. Upon successful completion of the REAP application process, you will receive a grant award determination from the USDA. Once you have been notified of your grant award, there are important steps to ensure a smooth project completion and disbursement process. You want to thoroughly review your agreement. Ask questions if you don't understand the terms and conditions. Maintain your SAM registration throughout the entire disbursement and follow-up period. Complete your project as proposed, maintaining clear records of invoices and payments. After the construction is complete and grant agreement is signed, you must complete a federal financial report known as the SF 425 and project performance report semi-annually. Due dates are July 31st and January 31st. 1 year after a project is completed, an outcome report is required. If your project was a renewable energy, this reporting is a 3-year requirement. If your project was energy efficiency, this reporting is a 2-year requirement. Next. Just some reminders and thoughts going through the process. Starting a project before an application is complete may make your project ineligible. Any payments made prior to an application being completed are not eligible project costs. So as I mentioned earlier, the post and pre-application timing, you will be advised via email and mail when your application is complete and you may begin your project. So again, any payments or work done prior to your application being complete may make your project ineligible. REAP is a very competitive reimbursement grant. Notification of award can take 2 to 6 months. Many projects are completed due to necessity before they're notified of the award status. Awarded REAP grants are considered taxable income, and you'll receive a 1099-G from the agency. Be sure to consult your tax professional. Not all programs can be combined on the same project. Be sure that you are verifying eligibility when applying. For example, the federal REAP and NRCS equip grant funding together cannot exceed 50% of the project total. However, some federal investment tax credits can be utilized when awarded a REAP grant. Energy efficiency improvement applications, energy savings are based on the last 12 to 60 months of utility bills at the same address as the project. Therefore, new operations are not eligible to apply for REAP grants. This relates to expanding operations as well. These projects are for energy consumption reduction. REAP applicants must have control of the project site for the useful life of the project. If the applicant does not own the site and a non-severable agreement or improvements are being proposed, a long-term lease between the REAP applicant and the site owner will be required. And finally, Davis-Bacon wage rates do not apply to REAP. Next. So we thought that it would be very beneficial for you to hear from a PennTAP client that has successfully navigated the REAP grant process. Please welcome Heather Snyder, Regulatory Manager of York Wall Covering.
Thanks,
Next.
Amy.
Mhm.
Next slide, please. So, hi, my name is Heather. As Amy had mentioned, York is a wall covering manufacturer located in York, Pennsylvania. We have been designing and producing wallpaper since the late 1800s. Next slide, please. In 2022, York upgraded all lighting at the Loucks Road facility to LED fixtures. This included manufacturing, warehouse, and office areas. Between August of 2021 and January of 2022, PennTAP performed their site audit and evaluation, while York employees worked with a lighting contractor to evaluate our fixture options. This was a unique lighting project since we had to be conscious of the CRI, or color rendering index values, and how it would impact the wall covering designs and printing while still maintaining energy efficiencies. In March of 2022, we submitted our REAP application to USDA, and in late April 2022, the lighting installation began. By July of 2022, we were awarded the REAP grant, and the project installation was wrapped up by the end of the year in December of 2022. Next slide, please. Some important things to consider with the REAP grant, and many of these may be duplicates of what Amy has covered, but we found that these were things that were important to share. The organization must have an active System for Award Management, or SAM, account. Registration is at no cost, but must be renewed annually. Some examples of the documentation needed for the grant, including but not limited to utility invoices for the last 12 months prior to the application, contractor invoices. It usually helps if it breaks down the fixture, equipment costs, and the labor costs separately. Financial statements for your organization, grant forms, which were provided by USDA as well as PennTAP, and energy audit and greenhouse gas calculations, which PennTAP has been very helpful with as well. Even after project completion and grant is awarded, quarterly reports are due, and I think that may have changed since we did it, but for us, it was quarterly reports are due to USDA for 2 years after the project start date. And lastly, open communication with PennTAP and your USDA rep is key and makes for such a smooth process.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Amy, for your presentations. I'm Martin Brill. I'm the coordinator for the Ag Center of Excellence at Penn State. University Small Business Development Center. And I want to welcome you all to this presentation and thank our partners for participating as well. Next slide, please. So the small business development centers are located across Pennsylvania and indeed across the United States, 1,000 across the United States, 15 in Pennsylvania. So there is one reasonably close to you that's happy to work with you on the following areas. It is free, confidential consulting that I've been involved with for close to 30 years in some of these areas. So business consulting, well, that's obvious because it's right in our name. I think what we try to do is first listen to our client or startup entrepreneur and listen about your personal background, listen about what your plans are, and then see if we can help you. So that's a first step in really trying to engage with the client. And many times what the company's asking for is not really what they need to help them succeed in business. So we're going to take a look at that as well. We offer a lot of business training opportunities across the state in terms of planning, in terms of startup, in terms of legal organization. So these are available. They're all free. So certainly you can avail yourselves of them if you're interested. Business planning. So a lot of folks just want to jump into business, and we think it's important to do some planning just as you would when you go on vacation, to know where you're going and how you're going to get there. So there's no big surprises, hopefully, down the road. So you're not reacting to a situation, you're actually leading the situation. Folks don't like to plan so much. They like to get into business, but we want to help them succeed in business. Easy to get into business, it's hard to stay in business. 80% of businesses, as you've heard many times, fail by year 5. And the 20% remaining, 80% of those generally fail by year 10. Our job is not to get you into business or talk you into business, it's to help you stay in business. We can do that with market research, using some of the chat GPT capabilities, other traditional sources of research, sometimes just getting on the web and doing some research as well. What are your competitors doing? What are some best practices out there? How would you benchmark against another company? So these are easy questions to ask, but hard to really answer and to put into business plan for your own benefit, and certainly if you're going to talk to a bank or financing entity. Financial projections, and that's a weakness that we generally find with our companies. They can do something in terms of services or product. Some are very good at the marketing, whether it's social media or more traditional marketing or distribution, but financial projections sometimes need help with. And don't forget those assumptions. Those are very important to help you and also to help any financing entity understand what's the thinking behind your projections. My job is to work with agricultural entities, a broad spectrum of producers, service providers, food processors, anybody broadly related to agriculture. And we don't have all the answers. So for sure we don't. But working with our clients, sometime involving outside partners, PennTAP's a great example, Penn State Ag Extension, sometime financing entities to help us figure out what's best for our client with you, not for you. So we have team consulting a lot of times to help us try to help the client. We can help with search engine optimization and social media review, which today is important for establishing your credibility and also to market your products. We help with government marketing, international trade. The state has 15 offices overseas that can help you with defining a new market overseas or exploring a new market. It's all for free. So certainly you can take advantage of that. And environmental management assistance, we have specialists in the state that can help with that. So let's go on to the next slide. And what are we doing with REAP? So we do require anybody working with us to sign up as a client. Here's the website. It's right at the top here. Because we don't charge you as the private sector consulting entity. So we are funded by the state and also by the federal government from the Small Business Administration. So we are accountable to them to say, what have we done with this money? How we use these funds? So we have to say we've worked with these type of companies here. So we do track what we're doing, and that's important for us. And we're happy to work with any of you. Several of my clients are on this call already, so we have worked with you already. So in tandem with USDA and in tandem also with our partners at PennTAP, we can provide grant information. Again, very practical information, not theoretical. And I've really found that both partners have been very helpful in saying, how can we maximize the amount of grants that you're applying for? What are these deadlines? How it's going to be judged? And so we're really all working for you, pulling in the same direction. So again, if I don't know the answer, which is possible, we'll contact one of our partners or involve them in the conversation. So understanding the terms, the timeframes that Amy expressed to you, it takes a long time to do these grants. It takes some time to apply even for a SAM registration. So we want to make sure that you do that in the timeframes and in the deadlines so that your application is properly considered. And the first step is applying for a SAM registration. And we do have a little film clip that we can send to you that's helpful. And I had a client do this just recently. And I think a really useful element of the service is to review your application. Have you really addressed the questions? Have you really answered the key determinants in how you perhaps qualify for the grant? And also help you integrate the grant into your overall plan so it makes sense for you. Recently had an applicant who wanted to apply for a grant, a fairly large grant of several $100,000, and they did not have the cash match. And so let's at least stop that early on. Or maybe there's a small grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection that will provide the energy improvement that you need, energy efficiency improvement, without going through this whole process. So that's where we try to add value with our partners to make sure that we can maximize the grant benefit for you, and it can apply and it fits into your business. And that's really the whole message that we've come to offer. And I think that's really the conclusion of my presentation. Here's some information where we are. I'm actually located in Harrisburg, but do go to Penn State. And here's our website, phone number, and email. So certainly you can scan the CR code, and we can provide the same information to you. Thank you all for attending, and I think we'll open it to Brandy and any questions that you want to ask either in the chat or later on in person.
Yeah, please, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. Give you guys a minute. One question that we do have is, what should we consider before installation of solar? That might be, Amy, a question for you.
Sure. So one thing that, we always talk to businesses about, there's obviously a huge interest in renewable energy projects. And, there's a lot to consider when you're doing that. And aside from just the, common things that your solar installers or specialists are going to talk about, you really want to make sure that you are running your operation as efficiently as possible before you consider solar, because solar arrays are very expensive. And if you're going to put a solar array up for inefficiency, you could be really spending a lot more money upfront than what you need to be spending. And that excess, you may not be able to send back to the grid because maybe the distribution lines can't handle it, or you're in an area where it can't be, you can't get that agreement. So, you want to think about those things. So that's why we mention about talking to people before they go to solar, looking at efficiencies and sizing correctly. I think, I give the example of my home. I had someone look at solar for my house. I have natural gas access at my home. And before I consider going to electric on HVAC and getting rid of my natural gas, I wanted to know, how much electricity could I get from a solar array on my roof? So you want to consider that so that, you're not replacing something and actually causing yourself more problems in the future.
Excellent, thank you. We do have another question that came in the Q&A. What is the difference in a SAM and UEI?
So the SAM registration is the portal for applying, and then the UEI is your unique entity identifying number.
And there's one more question in the Q&A. Does REAP have any focus to assist smaller family farms that have gross income less than $1 million?
So, really there's a large focus on trying to provide grant requests that are for under $20,000. So smaller grant dollars, even if a project is a larger amount, that you can request up to 50% of a project, even for larger projects. But ultimately, yes, the smaller family farms, we have a number of those that we're working with right now, both, on our USDA REAP tag grant, and then also some other grants that we have available, because there are a lot of small farms out there that are looking to upgrade their pumps, looking at improvements in grain dryers and things like that. And they definitely, smaller grant dollars, they have a bigger pot of money there. So, you typically have success, but again, it's a competitive grant. But we do work closely with USDA representatives to make sure that we're doing the most for our clients, because they also want to help people out and get those grant funds out.
Excellent. We have another question here. Can projects be combined on a single application?
They can. So, and this is one of the nice things about taking advantage of the points that you get if you're a first-time recipient. If you're applying for a grant, you get more points if you haven't received USDA grant funds in the past. So, I have a client that's looking at compressed air, lighting, and then also looking at some of their fans that they have throughout their farm. So this is a large milking operation. And, we will calculate how they're operating that equipment, the equipment information, put it all together. And then again, based on the usages, percentages, things like that, we make sure that we, can combine those things and try to get you a grant that'll help cover up to 50% of all of it.
Yeah, we had a client also looking at various storm windows, HVAC, and then we said, well, what about insulation? We said, yeah, we really need some insulation too. So they could combine all those different elements into one application.
Excellent. We do have another question. Is there any grant out there for 501c to help with energy upgrade?
There are some grants out there for nonprofits. There's a website called Desire. It's DSIRE. And that gets updated pretty regularly. And you can actually search by state and then specify nonprofit. The other thing to keep in mind throughout this, state of Pennsylvania, we have our large utility companies, First Energy, PP&L, Duquesne Light, different utility companies that own the distribution across the state of Pennsylvania for electric lines, for example. They have programs through the Act 129 that could potentially help with, if you're their client, to provide some money back on improvements that you're making. I've seen lighting being done in some nonprofits and different things like that. you can always feel free to reach out to us. And, we can send you a link, provide some information. We can't come out and do a free assessment for you, but PennTAP's always happy to give some referrals and help out if we can.
Wonderful. We have another one in the Q&A. Can you provide more information about a Pennsylvania grant for solar that is not REAP? How much are the grants? I think is what it's.
Again, I would suggest looking at the Desire website because, we're really focusing on today's grant on REAP. There are a lot of other programs out there specifically for solar. Because solar requires a professional engineer to sign off on specific things like, the structural roof, the capability of holding an array, or if you're going out and disturbing land, you're going to need, someone that's going to do a study on the disturbance. So there's, a lot involved in solar. And most of the time, your solar professionals that you're working with will be able to provide a lot of information on what's available for solar out there in addition to REAP. And they should know also which programs can be combined to help you. Because again, I mentioned things like the Act 129 rebates available for the large utility company clients. If you're applying for a REAP, you're able to still utilize an Act 129 rebate on lighting, HVAC, compressed air. You're also able to use, like, I believe Martin mentioned the DEP Small Business Advantage Grant, which is expected to open up again July 1st for another funding year. So, there are many of our clients that are using multiple resources together, and that's permitted. We try, obviously we make sure that the ones that we're combining are permitted to be together, but your solar professionals are going to know that as well.
Okay. And then one more here. Are hemp producers eligible to apply for REAP?
So the main requirement whenever a company, it's going to be looked at exactly what they're producing. And then they are also going to have to make sure that they show a verification of a valid hemp license prior to any type of award. So there are some restrictions with it, but it's definitely worth, asking about and finding out what laws are allowing what. And again, that's part of the relationship that we have with our USDA specialists across the state to be able to talk through projects with them and make introductions to clients.
Okay, thank you. Another one's just popped in. Is there a more specific avenue for getting assistance with insulating poultry barns? We have been working on energy efficiency with lighting and fans, but our main efficiency is due to heat loss or heat infiltration because of poor insulation, and that wasn't really a focus of the program, it seems. The excess cost is utilities. Utilities is putting us at risk for losing our contract.
Okay, so yeah, insulation is definitely part of it. It takes, keep in mind that with these grants, anytime we are looking at a specific area and you're going to apply for a grant, you have to have the contractor's quotes for us to be able to do a calculation of what savings will be. So, if we're looking at insulation, I had a client that had a building, he was increasing the insulation because it was a production area. So we were able to say, okay, his R values are going from this to this. Here's the size of the space. Here's the equipment he's using. And that insulation change is going to save him this much money annually. He had the history of the utility bills. We had quotes on what the new insulation was going to cost. And, in this particular case, it was a smaller operation and he was having spray-on insulation put onto metal walls of his building. And he was able to use in-house labor to prepare for that. So to clean the walls, move things out of the way, get everything ready for the contractor. And his wages, to be able to do that with his people, were part of the grant that he was able to get covered. So, you know, it's important to know, you know, we do ask for a lot of information, and these processes take a long time. The quotes, as Heather mentioned, the quotes broken down by equipment, labor, taxes, you know, really itemized with specification, like the model numbers, for example, or new R values. That information has to be on the quote, so that USDA knows exactly what's being done. And then when the project is completed and you're doing the sign off and everything, that yes, this project is done, you need to have those bills, those invoices, the spec sheets. The equipment has to match what we said was going to be installed, or the, you know, new installation. It needs to be what was quoted and turned in on the application. So there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of, you know, I's to dot, T's to cross with the quotes and everything. But, you know, yes, installation can absolutely be done with that information. So
are there any other questions?
I will add a slide in somewhere, you know, towards the end of the PennTAP, or maybe at the end of this presentation, on some links to resources like Desire and things like that. So when you get your email and get your PDF, the slides, I'll have a link in there that you'll be able to look at for those websites, for those of you that, you know, asked about the 501c and things like that.
I think it's good to involve the experts, as you've heard, early on in the process. So instead of just installing HVAC, new heater, air conditioner, what is the SER that's desirable, so that it might cost you a little more, but if you're getting 50% reimbursement, there it will still be worthwhile. So I think when the emphasis is to contact your contractors early on, because they'll be busy, and to get the quotes and all will take a while. And secondly, to contact USDA, PennTAP, or ourselves early on to start that process and dialogue.
Excellent. Thank you, Martin. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go to the last slide here and ask again that you provide us with your feedback. You can use your phone to scan this QR code, but we do have a built-in survey. So when this seminar ends, it'll pop up on your screen if you just don't mind taking a few minutes and let us know how we did, and maybe some other areas in which you need assistance. It'd be very helpful. All right, if there are no other questions and no other commentary from the panel here, we will go ahead and end today's session.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.